Before coming out, I felt very suppressed and not really understanding a lot of things because I knew people my age weren't really expressing the same interests that I expressed when it came to attraction and things like that. So I was a little confused and a little, I felt misplaced almost a lot of times because I just felt like I didn't necessarily relate with anyone that I knew or that I could, confide in at the time. And so I first realized that I was different around the age of 9 or 10. I started to realize that I had attractions to more than just females. I had an attraction to men as well. And that's when I started to learn about bisexuality and what it actually is, and understand what this actually was that I was experiencing. And that's actually also the same moment that I actually kind of came to terms with my bisexuality. I came to terms with it around the same time because once I understood and did the research to know what it actually was, I knew that that was what I was. I knew that was how I identified. I knew that was what I am. And that was kind of my moment where I learned about it and I kind of accepted it, and I knew who I was from that moment forward. The first person I told that I was bisexual was my mother. I'd never really told friends. It kind of was an assumed thing in my growing up years. Everyone assumed actually that I was gay. I don't think a lot of my friends even know that I am bisexual because of the assumption that just generally comes along because of my personality. But the first person that I sat down and formally told was my mother. And it's actually from a friend convincing me. We were talking in school, and I believe it was National Coming Out Day actually, and we were in school and we were discussing how important it is that we don't really hold those qualms and that we actually let our family know what we experience and what we feel. And that day I went home and I told my mother. It took me a while. I had to muster up the courage, I won't lie, but I finally got myself together and I told my mother, and we both just shared a moment. She gave me the typical, well, I'm not going to say typical, but she gave me the expected response, I will say that, which was, I accept you for who you are. I do hope that you'll abide by our religion and, kind of conform, I guess you can say. Not really conform, but she wanted to steer me back onto the path of my religion, or the religion that we practice. And so that was really the first person that I told. My family, again, she was really my mother's really the only person that I've ever come out to, that I've actually said I am bisexual, this is me. A lot of other people have just assumed it, and I'll confirm it. So I don't necessarily consider that coming out, but so yeah, a lot of my friends just assume it, and a lot of people that I know just assume it. But I will say that my friends, when they do find out, when they do actually ask me, am I gay or bisexual, or what my orientation is, I do feel like a lot of my friends accept me overwhelmingly, which is a great thing because in today's day and age and in our culture in general, there's a lot of bi-erasure that goes on. And what I mean by that is a lot of people who identify as bisexual are often just marked off from the beginning. From the moment you say that you're bisexual, you're marked off, because society sees two orientations. They see straight and they see gay, or lesbian, which are often termed into one, which is another problem in and of itself. But bi-erasure is such a huge thing, and so I'm grateful that my friends and my family as well accept that I'm bisexual, that I'm not a gay male, that I'm not a straight male, that I'm not someone who's confused, that I'm not someone who's using one to gateway to the other, but that I'm actually a bisexual male who has an equal attraction to both, well, a spectrum attraction to both. And I love that, both my family and my friends recognize that, and they both accept me overwhelmingly, which I love. And it's great, and it has made my life a lot easier. When I was younger, before I came out, I wouldn't necessarily turn to alcohol or drugs for coping mechanisms, but I would definitely turn to self-hatred, and a lot of self-harm, and a lot of like suicidal thoughts would run my mind, and keep me in a bubble that was a very negative mind space. But I don't think I ever used suicide as a coping method. It was more so a way to get away from the bullying that I experienced both before and after coming out. So like before coming out, and even now, I'm a feminine guy. I'm just more loose. I'm more open with myself than a lot of guys are, and that allows me to be more secure in myself, to express myself differently. And that's what the stemming of a lot of my bullying has come from me being that overly feminine guy, or me being that guy who's not afraid of being a little more feminine than masculine at times. And that's where the bullying really stemmed from for me. But I think that's somewhat subsided, because what I experience now more so on a day-to-day basis is less bullying and more misunderstanding. Because before, the bullying was during school. So these are kids, calling you names and trying to tear you down and things of that nature. And, it's a whole different game than nowadays dealing with adults, because dealing with adults, it's less so name calling and more so treatment wise. And I mean, it's in the same aspect as bullying, it's in the same realm as bullying, but I don't consider it bullying. I consider it, society's treatment, essentially, because a lot of people don't understand and don't want to understand that we're just normal humans, and that all of us are the same, and small minor differences don't equate to someone being able to be treated differently. Just like the same way you wouldn't necessarily judge someone if they had a scar on their left arm versus a scar on their right arm. It's these things are so minute that it's not something that someone should be judged differently on, but people are still learning that. And lastly, my advice to anyone coming out is to, first and foremost, the absolute utmost important thing before coming out is make sure that your environment is one that's safe to come out. Because a lot of people kind of get coerced into coming out, and I mean, you'll never truly know what anyone's reaction will be. But what I mean by, check your environment and make sure that it's a safe environment to come out. Like if your neighborhood is one, say, that has anti-LGBT laws, or if your parents have said to you before, based off of seeing something on TV or whatever the case may be, if they've said to you, oh, if I had a gay son, he'd be kicked out, or if I had a lesbian daughter or a bisexual son or a bisexual daughter, they would be kicked out, there's no way you'd live under this roof, et cetera, et cetera. I don't recommend coming out, because at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you in order to survive. And survival is ultimately the main importance of this entire thing. If you feel like you're going to be in a predicament where you can no longer survive or get the access to the supplies that you need to survive, then I don't recommend coming out. Coming out doesn't have to be when you're a teenager, when you're a child, when you're young. People can come out at any stage in their lives. So wait until it's right for you. Wait until you have the right environment, the right tools, the proper people in your life. You can kind of pre-screen people out of your life, without coming out. Pre-screen them out of your life to know whether they would accept you. Pre-screen and filter all of that out, then come out. And it will make your coming out experience thousands of times better than, some people unfortunately experience. But I think coming out is all about the timing. It's all about the timing. And don't rush into it just because your friend tells you, oh, come out, it's National Coming Out Day. Yeah, National Coming Out Day is great and all, but don't rush into something that you don't feel is the time that that it's time for you to come out. If you feel it's time for you to come out and you want to face whatever consequences come your way, by all means do so. But what I'm saying is, don't let someone else coerce you into coming out, because you're the one who has to live your life. And if you don't think that you'll be able to live your life the way you want to live it after coming out, you don't have to. It's not a law. You know, it's your prerogative. It's your right to come out when you are ready. And that's what I recommend to do. Just come out when you're ready. Thank you.